to watch this.
Yeah.
Mind you, half of
Thousands.
them can't because they're cut off from.
Do we know how many people are logged in? Do we see how many people are logged in?
Just
Just out of interest.
yeah.
I suspect there won't be very
No,
many.
watching the live. Oh, okay, on YouTube.
They do say so many people watching or something. but,
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I wouldn't get overly excited. It'll be that.
Bob mentioned it. Panic. I was like, no, there it is. Okay, 7 o'clock. Well done.
Let's do it.
Good evening, everyone. I remind councillors and all those present that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public, so please be mindful of your actions and your comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note the recording of this meeting will be retained online at any council's archives. Please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to silent. Filming and photography are not permitted. Anyone observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. Now declare the meeting open at 7 p.m. A request was received from Councillor Smith to attend this meeting by audio-visual link in accordance with clause 6.21 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Therefore, I move the following procedural motion. The committee approves the request by Councillor Smith to attend the Environment and Planning Committee meeting on 1 July 2025 at 5 p.m. At 7 p.m. That's that long. By audio-visual link because she is unable to attend in person due to personal reasons. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any discussion, any opposition? Put it. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, warm welcome to everyone in attendance and those watching along at home tonight. I'll do the acknowledgement of country, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. Pay our respects to Dark and Junk country and elders past and present. We recognise the continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement of the names and stories of those who will also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and their shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I don't believe there are any apologies and we've got all the councillor members present. Close of interest. But I'm not going to go around the room. Has anyone got a disclosure? I couldn't see there was anything in there that's likely to cause a disclosure. So if nobody's got one, we'll note that there have been no disclosures.
Non-members have to declare a conflict.
You
Not that
should.
I have one. But
You should, yes. In fact, it is required, is mine. Yes, I'm sure I couldn't imagine, I couldn't say it's anything like, of course. Before we start, I just did want to, I'm sure on behalf of echoing everyone here tonight, put out our thoughts and our best wishes and prayers to those people particularly affected at North Entrance and Womble tonight, and obviously other people affected by this wild weather. I assume, there'll be trees down, all sorts of consequences for it. But just coming to the coastal erosion, I mean, what to me this indicates is the planning system is totally failed in dealing with particularly people's private property and their ability to protect it. And I have already spoken to the director about this, and I believe something's got to go into the emergency sub-plan, which is on exhibition, but that'll be a matter for when it comes back from exhibition. And, I think well done at least that we got the CMP out on exhibition, because, again, what this has highlighted is we need to have some solutions in place to start applying for grants and doing some of the work that will prove a benefit in the future. Okay, so we're now on to, does anyone else want to say anything about those events? So I'll now move on to the minutes. Is everyone happy with the minutes? Somebody want to move that they be accepted? Thank you, Councillor Milden. Seconded. Councillor Castles, I'll get you on the run sheet.
Is that for both minutes, Mr. Chair? There's two sets of minutes, the third and
Yes, just the two sets of minutes. Yes, thank you.
move from both.
And Councillor Castles, you happy with both of them?
Oh, yes, that's
Thank you.
fine.
All right, any discussion of that? I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Yeah, raise your hand. Yep, carried unanimously. Okay, we're up to the exception. So I would have thought, and I'm happy to be corrected, that we don't necessarily need to deal with item 19110. Fire reports, we could do them by way of exception if there's no.
I've got a question about the fire report, Buggy Boy.
No, well, we won't do that one, so that's
It's only a quick.
110. Is there anyone want? Sorry, that's 19. Anyone want 110? Sorry. That
I
was
think I had a
110.
question about 110, just a
Yes.
minor question.
That's fine.
relatively. Yep.
No, we won't do that by exception. What about 19? Is everyone happy to do that by exception?
Mr. Chair, I'm just scrolling through the 19.
Is that the fire?
The other fire one at West Gosford.
Got no issue with that one.
And what about the DA statistics 114, or do you want questions on that?
Yes, I've got a
Okay,
speak to that one, please.
so it only looks like 19 we're going to do by the exception. So wants to move that we deal with that one by exception. Moved by Councillor Merlin, seconded by Councillor Stamp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Okay, we do have presentations on 1.5 and 1.6. Why is that got me there? Sorry. Thank you. I'm happy to be corrected. 1.7 and 1.8. Yes. So it's here. It's got. Yeah, that's all right. All right, so we're on to, sorry, 1.5, correct? So has the director got any comments on this?
Councillors, just noting that council's delegated authority for the Environmental Planning Committee to endorse the terms of reference. So that's the first one. So it's proposed that you endorse them. I just wanted to make a correction into the report. The proposal is that the committee would meet on Tuesdays in 12 till 2. So I'm trying to get it during the day. And then we're looking to do it largely on the 5th Tuesday. So it's a day that doesn't have a council meeting, or in some months there are other opportunities, but we're trying to find
Would there often not be a fifth Tuesday? Would there often not be a fifth Tuesday?
we think if you do it every 3 months, we've been able to find one
Cool.
every 3 months. Yep. So I wanted to mention that if you approve the terms of reference, we then go out to expressions of interest for community members, and then the councillors on the committee would come together to resolve the community membership, and then we'd advise the community members of the actual time frame. So we're sort of saying committing to the Tuesday at this stage, we're recommending it be quarterly and starting in September. At this stage, it's probably best not to resolve which specific dates. We'll actually resolve that before we get the community members.
Okay, so it's open. Well, I suppose we need to move it first. Councillor Stanton is moving it. Is he seconder? So is you seconding that, Councillor Smith?
No, I just had some comments or some.
That's fine. I'll come to you as soon as we've got a motion.
Yep.
I'm having a second motion.
All right, second by Councillor Merland. Councillor Stanton, you want to speak to it?
Just to say that I'm very happy that it's coming here tonight and we can resolve this and we can get this moving. Just a small correction on the director, just to say that the delegation to this particular committee is both for the draft terms of reference tonight and the EOIs. When we get that back, that will also come to this same environmental planning committee to decide the membership. Be on our way.
Councillor Milland?
I've got a comment.
Yes, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, look, I'd just request a couple of changes to the terms of reference. Firstly, this committee is an initial period of 2 years. I'd like to see it for the term of council. Now that's different to the Mangrove Mountain Committee, which I'm happy with for 2 years. But this Coastal Estuary Committee aligns with the requirement to have a committee for this kind of planning. So it just seems like a waste of effort to have to go through this process in 2 years when we require this committee to be established anyway. So that's my first point. The second point is on the quorum. I think the quorum for both committees is saying, I think half the number of councillors and half the number of community members need to be in attendance. I don't think that's an ideal arrangement. I would request that the quorum be half the number of committee members with at least one councillor in attendance. So I wonder if the group would consider that. I think they were the main changes. I am concerned about these committees only meeting quarterly. I don't think that is sufficient. I would like to see them meet bi-monthly as a minimum, and any additional meetings be determined by the committee if they felt they needed another meeting in between times. So, I welcome comments, but I'd probably move that as an amendment unless there's sort of broad consensus.
Before you do that, that's fine, Councillor Smith. I just thought we might ask the first point about the term, might ask the director to comment on that.
Councillors, I don't think there's a problem for having it for the full council term. That's what you want.
But statutory, there has got to be some sort of flood planning committee.
Yes, that's correct.
So that seems to me to make sense.
Yeah, so it's recommended.
Recommended under the guidelines.
So you want to have it for at least 2 years, but if you want to have it for a longer period, that's not a problem.
So Councillor Stanton, you happy to accept that change?
To accept that particular change.
So we've got one, Councillor Smith.
Yep.
The quorum, I think that's a matter of interpretation. I guess I read it as, and again, we might get one of the staff, whoever did it, to comment, that you added the two together and then it was half of the councillor members and the public members, and then it was half of that total, if that totals 11 or something, and 6. Is that the way it worked, or have I got it wrong?
That's the way I believe it's drafted. The total, at least half the total of the membership, regardless whether they're councillors or community members. But I don't. Whether if the council wanted to take a different direction, then there's no real issue.
So Councillor Smith, if that's the interpretation, then to get to that, you'd have to have more than one councillor present.
All right, so can we maybe just get, it's 9.1 in the terms of reference. So it says a quorum shall be the majority of councillor members and community representatives, half plus one, rounded down to the nearest whole number. Then maybe it needs to also explicitly say with at least one councillor present.
You can't get to that number.
Oh, okay, you are correct. Yeah, you are correct. Yep. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So
All right.
we're down to one issue, quarterly or bi-monthly. What's the about that, Councillor Stanton?
Yeah, I think we have discussed this. I think quarterly for this particular committee is okay to begin with. There is the opportunity to call extraordinary meetings, and I believe that that's already included in the draft terms, and that's what we do as a general council in general. I think the other issue is we have a lot of committees and we have a scheduling concern, and we wish to have this particular committee on a Tuesday to align with these schedules. It's difficult to find another Tuesday where this fits in. It's got to be a daytime, as we have a lot of external members coming to this committee as well, and it's a big committee. So the staff have worked pretty hard to try to find dates that could work for staff and councillors, which is how they've come up with this 5th Tuesday. And we might have some trouble finding that 5th Tuesday in other months.
Okay, so I think that's not accepting that. So Councillor Smith, did you want to move that?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any other debate on this then? I had a couple of questions myself, just on the membership of the, and from the external agencies. Why do we need New South Wales State Emergency Service to come? And why do we need the University of Newcastle? If they have value, it's fine, but I couldn't understand what value they added.
I mean, I can't answer this as an official person, but I can imagine that the SES is a fairly important body to have. I mean, they've been on the ground all day today. So I think when we're talking about coastal erosion and flooding, the SES is a very important organisation to be.
I think that's true, and also just keeping up to date with anything that's happening and what interest they have.
I'm not sure at the university though.
Well,
It's really to the staff, sorry.
I know, I just think off the
That's
top of
fine.
my head, the SES is pretty important for this committee.
Sorry, can I just ask the staff,
Yes.
specifically the area of UON that you were looking at including here in terms of like your school or whichever one?
Yep. So firstly, just in response, I think we were on the money, Councillor Stanton with the SES. Historically, they haven't always attended every meeting, but perhaps their attendance might be driven by the agenda for that particular meeting. The University of Newcastle, I couldn't tell you the name of the particular area. We have had attendance, and perhaps one of the councillors that was on the previous committee might be able to advise if they remember. We've had attendance from one of the professors there who is a specialist in estuarine health and environmental matters and things like that, and has provided significant advice in the past.
Okay.
I'm thinking I've heard that gentleman at one of the community blood or community lagoon meetings, and
So just on that, the representatives from other agencies, the way I read this is that it wouldn't be, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wouldn't be that at every meeting all of these various agencies or organisations would be invited. It would be selected as to who might be, depending on what's on the agenda. Is that how people are seeing it when they look at this?
Yes, councillor. What would happen is it'd probably be driven by what's on the agenda.
That's what I'm saying. So what's on the agenda
that would
drive it.
University of Newcastle as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, as well. I mean,
So why
yes.
not have them on there?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is if every single organisation who is obviously got expertise and obviously can be incredibly helpful with this process was at every meeting, it's going to be like insane, frankly. So it's going to have to be based on what's on the agenda to some extent, isn't it? Or if we want a special guest to come and speak with us about something in particular.
I think
How we're seeing
I
it.
think so. I think as well, the wording of this particular clause, it says will be invited by the CEO,
Yeah,
as subject matter experts and advisors. That does imply that
yeah.
they're not always going to be necessary in a particular case, but
No,
I think having the opportunity to have as many listed as possible
yes.
seems worthwhile. But in a case where something
No, I think
arose
it's
and they were
very
relevant,
Yeah. No, it's really good. Making sure we know what we're doing here. That's all.
I mean, it's a big committee, not be a big room.
Yeah.
If we had it.
Okay, well, we come back to the motion, which I think we just need a little bit of amending to say if we can. Lost. Got Councillor Smith on the full screen, which is
Going to put the resolution.
Oh, sorry, am I able to?
no, it's
speak?
not you. It's not you. It's
Oh.
us. Just waiting for the recommendation to come back on the screen because it'll just need slight amendment.
But while you're doing that, could I maybe also say I would still like these subcommittees to submit their reports to the full ordinary council. I don't see the point in it coming via this committee. We've got then three different channels considering the same information, which seems to be not very efficient. I would like to suggest that.
I think that was a resolution of council.
So we're sticking with resolutions of council, Councillor Eaton?
Until they're rescinded, yes.
Okay, good to know.
Sorry, we're still. Okay. Yes, so we need to put that for the term of council, which I would have thought says something like, scroll down a little bit to go to the first one.
The quorum comes out
No, the quorum's fine. That was part's okay.
in the amendment.
Yeah. Yeah, so then at the end, just amended to be that the committee be for the full term of council. No, we don't need that part.
I didn't accept that.
It's got to say amended.
I think just amended as follows, 1.1.
That'd work.
If you could just, I think the easiest solution is
Sorry, that was good.
1.1 needs to be changed 2 to 4.
Oh, it's on the.
It's already on the, it's already on the draft terms.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so there we are. We've just-
It's already in the draft terms of 1.1. So it's just changing 2 to 4 and taking out initial.
And we don't need the last sentence, the one about the quorum that can be deleted. So you happy with that, Councillor Stanton and Councillor Merlin? Is there any more discussion? Not, I'll put it. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Vote unanimously. Uh, 1.6 is the Mangrove Mountain one, and I'll just advise that there's a amended report that came out late today with some fairly minor changes in it, I thought, but I might ask the director just to speak to the
councillors. So we've had a bit of a technical difficulty, but if you look at the version that it was on the table, but also was emailed to all committee members. It's reasonably similar. It's just got a few amendments in there to be consistent with the approach for the terms of reference for other committees. And that we've strengthened up the eligibility requirements for the for membership. So they're the two main things. In the same way as the other terms of reference, if we adopt terms of reference, we go back to council for endorsement, and then we go to an EOI for community members.
Sorry, Chair, could I just ask the director to read out the changes since I didn't have a chance to compare the latest version?
Yes. Did you hear that, Director? Can you read out the changes? Do you know, or one of your staff can assist? The one I noticed was that it didn't previously have I think, frequency of the meetings.
If I can ask Shan Mitchell just to tell us more detail about the changes.
So there's some refinement of some of the words throughout the terms of reference that makes it consistent with the terms of reference that have been provided. So the catchments one as well that we've just looked at. Specifically, there's changes in the 3.7 for representatives. And it's just some minor word changes in there. In section 4.
Sorry, could you read out 3.7 then, please?
3.7 is representatives from the following government agencies, academia, research bodies and industry will be invited by the CEO to join the subcommittee as subject matter experts and advisors to provide technical information and advice to the subcommittee in relation to agenda items for matters that are otherwise more generally within the scope of the subcommittee. These
Sorry,
bodies will
I'm
be-
looking at a document that has a significantly different 3.7. that says subcommittees have no decision-making authority. Any recommendations are made by group consensus. What, am I looking at the wrong thing?
Just grab my version.
This is the main update.
Yeah, so that is significant. So those points have been changed there. So 3.1 is slightly different, but it has been combined with 3.2 there to clarify what the makeup of the committee is.
3.2.
Sorry, do we have a
3.2.
version with track changes or anything that can be sent around? Or
We can do that, yes.
Councillor Smith, do you want to leave this towards the end of the meeting?
yes, that might be advisable if we could get the version with track changes, just so that we can see.
I have a procedural motion to leave, to defer this matter to the end of the tonight's business. Move, yeah, Councillor Walsh, second, Councillor Moreland. I'll put that, all those in favour. Carried unanimously, we'll do that.
It's just saying that the director, we go from 3.31 to 0.34. It seems to be.
3.1.
Oh, yes, sorry. It seems to be.
No, yes.
For the track change.
And councillors, we need to go back to the last item because there was another error that we didn't pick up. Director, if you
Yeah, so councillors, if you just see the wording, I've just updated at the bottom there. So we made the amendment that the committee will be for the term of council. But what I said verbally, we needed to also say in there, which was, and the committee would be held on the Tuesdays quarterly.
So I think it said Thursday in the original.
And
It's Thursday in the report.
isn't it the 5th Thursday?
Yeah, but
Yes.
leave that loose. That's just for us to know. Yeah.
I think we
So we're just saying at the moment they'll be held quarterly. That's,
Yeah, but on a Tuesday, because I think the terms of reference say Thursdays. We're saying
Yeah.
definitely on a Tuesday.
yeah,
We think it'll be fifth week, but
Talked about.
yeah,
will be able
see
to.
how we go.
no, that's fine.
So that just
Is
needs.
everyone? Go back to who moved second, Councillor Moreland. And I'll put it back to the vote again. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. All right.
Maybe, deal with it with Moreland.
Stanton and Moreland, yep. Okay, review of keeping of animals, and I think we had a staff presentation on this.
Sorry, John, what am I doing?
1.7 is the item.
Page 17.
You found it?
Thanks.
That's right.
It stopped.
It doesn't involve cats or dogs, right? That's the one.
That's the one, yep. Got everything, every other animal, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Pigs, I think.
Sorry, Anton has it.
Oh, haven't heard from the guys. I can go and check.
We're just having a little bit of a live stream issue. I'm not sure if that has actually stopped. But just letting you know that it is otherwise recorded.
All right, keep going. Please.
We can keep going.
With the keeping of animals policy, there is a policy that is currently in place, and that was adopted on the 23rd of February 2020. This version is an update of that with some minor wording changes as a requirement of reviewing of our policies. We've made sure that it's consistent with current legislation and just some minor adjustments to some wording within the policy just to ensure that we're covering off some of the issues that we find out in the community when we're dealing with these complaints. So essentially, it's about the management of animals in residential areas. So we're not talking on rural lands or on farms and things like that. This is about residential land, and it's regulated under the Local Government Act. The policy supports that legislation, keeping those animals. It sets out the expectations for the community to maintain their land in a healthy condition. The keeping of animals such as chickens and pigs can cause unhealthy conditions, odours and manure and things like that. We get lots of complaints in relation to that where they're not kept in a healthy So this policy doesn't include the keeping of dogs and cats. They're regulated under the Companion Animals Act and in a different way. So this is just looking at animals under the Local Government Act and chickens, poultry, other poultry, pigs, goats, and things like that are more suitable to rural areas. The objective of the policy is to provide the minimum standards for the keeping of these animals, and it reduces any adverse impacts on the surrounding community and the environment. The intent of the policy is to protect and promote welfare of animals. So keeping too many animals in a small enclosed residential yard can obviously impact their welfare. Protect welfare and habitat of other native wildlife in the location, and minimise the disturbance or damage to protected native vegetation. It also prevents amenity impacts like offensive odour, noise, dust, harbourage for vermin, and also inappropriate waste disposal. So in the policy, we have a guiding table for the keeping of animals. So this is used where there might be a report of a health or concern by the neighbours. And for example, if someone was keeping 100 pigeons and there was health impacts associated with that and rats in that enclosure, we would refer them back to this table where 10 pairs of pigeons being able to keep them in a more healthy manner in a small residential location. So this table is very valuable for staff and also for the community to understand what the expectations might be to be able to keep their animals in a healthy condition in these residential yards. You will note that bees there is specific requirements by the Department of Primary Industries. We have got that in there. We did get lots of questions in relation to bees during the last public exhibition of this policy, and it is referred direct to primary industries, but it is there. Horses, cattle, pigs and sheep and goats are not recommended in residential yards, but we're looking at rats, mice, guinea pigs, pigeons, chickens, other poultry, rabbits, and reptiles are controlled by Biodiversity Conservation Act requirements, and they are required to have a licence. So that is referenced there for, I guess, information for the community within this policy.
Can I ask a good question? With the, so when you're talking about residential, obviously in residential areas, clearly we can all sort of envisage a, block of land with a house on it or whatever, but how big an area? Because I mean, there are residential areas, if you like, where you've got somebody who might have an acre or they might have, that kind of a sort of setting around them in those slightly more rural areas. Does this apply there too? Or?
It does, and it comes back to being able to keep it in a healthy condition.
Right.
So if you've got 15 chickens and you're able to maintain it well and not have any odour impacts and no impacts on your neighbours, then it wouldn't be an issue.
No.
However, if you have neighbours very close and you are having those impacts, then we would refer them back to trying to reduce the number of pigs through using this policy. Chickens, through using this policy.
One's got wings, one doesn't.
To try and manage that in a better way.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But it says not recommended.
Explore,
That's true.
What if someone just says, well, you recommended that, but I think differently? Many people believe you're not allowed to keep roosters.
Yeah.
What if someone just says, well, I love roosters, I'm keeping them?
So the legislation doesn't say that you can't have it. So we can't say something that the legislation doesn't require. But for example, a rooster, where it does cause impacts on the neighbours through noise, which is usually the main concern, we would then use the other pieces of legislation, such as the Protection of Environment Operations Act, to regulate the management of that noise. And there are methods to keep a rooster and not have an impact on the neighbours in a smaller area through housing and keeping it enclosed until after sunrise. There is other also very, humane ways of managing roosters so that it doesn't have impacts, although they are not recommended because a lot of people can't manage them in a productive way. There was a couple of others. The structures that these animals are kept in are managed under the Exempt and Complying Development SEP. So there are certain restrictions on where you can have a structure for the keeping of pigs, for example, in proximity to a residential area. So we're not trying to reinvent any of that legislation. We would refer them back to the exempt and complying development SEP. If it's something that they are doing and it's a structure that doesn't comply with their SEP, then they would need development consent to have that structure. So we use our regulatory policy to look at enforcement action where these activities might be causing health or I guess noise or other impacts on neighbours. And there are different pieces of legislation that we might apply in different circumstances. But this policy is mainly about maintaining healthy conditions by the keeping of these animals.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Thank you to the staff. I just, in reading the policy, I noticed the objectives talk about minimising impact or on native wildlife and native vegetation, but I couldn't quite see in the policy how that came through. So I guess and I'm not going to make a big deal out of anything. I think the policy is basically good, but to me, it just seemed to be missing something that said the animals need to be kept on site within the boundary of the property. Can we put something like that in there? I know it talks about, it refers to the SEP for how they're contained, but that impact on vegetation and native wildlife seems to be when animals go wandering into the bushland next door, which things like rabbits and that do. So
we can add a clause in there that they must be contained within the property boundary.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
Maybe the
You want to move that, Councillor Smith?
If I need to move it, unless it's just accepted.
No, I don't think there's any objection to it. I just was giving you the opportunity to be the mover, including that that change.
No, I'm happy for it to be accepted. Yep. Oh, I can move it. Yep.
All right, moved by Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Merlin. Now we need to bring it up so we make sure we know what we're voting on.
I'm happy with that, Mr. Chair.
Can I just ask a quick question before we vote on
Yeah.
that? One of the things mentioned there is pigeons. Now, you know, racing pigeons, etc., that like to go out for their little homing pigeons. They seem to like to go out for a little fly together and then they go back home again. Quite clearly, they can't be kept within their boundary as long as they're kept within their boundary when they actually get home. I'm just raising it purely because I walk most days and there is obviously someone who owns these pigeons and they do their little fly around and do whatever they do. Maybe he races them as well, he, she, I don't know. But clearly they're flying birds, so they can't be kept within their boundary. So that's just an aside possibly, but you know, it's true.
Want to exempt
And
homing
when
pigeons as wandering flights.
Within reason.
I'm sure the staff will.
Reasonably contained. Okay, we're happy with that. Reasonably contained, Councillor Smith.
Look, I do think there needs to be some specific wording, otherwise staff can't enforce it. So I mean, I'm happy to leave it to the staff to find that specific wording. But I think it, you know, to put reasonable in there sort of, you know, would lead to arguments with homeowners about, well, it was reasonable for my rabbit to go and find a friend somewhere.
All right, take reasonably back out. You want to say except for homing pigeons?
I don't really know what I want to say. I just felt I had to raise the issue.
What about with consideration given to birds of flight or something like that? Or with, I don't know, there's a better word than consideration, but something along those lines.
Yeah, take reasonably out because it does.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
That's
I'm
not.
happy to reset.
All right, so take out the
Pigeons.
first line where you've got the reasonable,
Yeah, reasonable.
leave the rest in.
Things like hearing falcons.
That's right.
Okay, we all happy with that? All right, put that, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay. Now we're up to 1.8, species management plan, squirrel glider. And I think we've got a staff member to talk to us about that.
Introduced Deanne Frankel, who's the section manager for the plan.
Thanks, everyone. So we're just presenting to you tonight the draft squirrel glider species management plan with a recommendation that be endorsed to go out in public exhibition. So this document, it aims to increase the long-term viability of squirrel glider populations, improve habitat and connectivity across the Central Coast, and ensure an appropriate avoidance, minimisation and offsetting of squirrel glider populations and habitat occurs across the Central Coast, and where possible, habitats are enhanced. What this document does is it outlines the process that must be followed to avoid and minimise the impacts, components for planning proposals and biodiversity certification, proponents lodging development applications, and it identifies the recovery actions, the intended recovery response, and who the responsibility lies with, and it sets out the ongoing monitoring, evaluation, and reporting requirements for council. So there are a number of reasons why we're proceeding with this, with the development. So firstly, we are rolling out a series of SMPs, two that have already been adopted, the Redemnia and the Myotis that were adopted last year. And we have coming up in the near future, the Swift Parrot as well. So the squirrel glider has been identified as a vulnerable species under the Biodiversity Conservation Act, and that's because it's at high risk of local extinction if population recovery doesn't occur. Legislatively, development proponents must demonstrate that they have taken all reasonable steps to avoid and minimise the impacts on biodiversity prior to calculating a biodiversity credit. There's established case law that clearly states that there is to be no adverse effects on this species as a result of the development process. And Council's already got two adopted documents, the Biodiversity Strategy, Theme 4 says we've got to protect biodiversity through land use planning and information management, and the Sustainability and Climate Change Action Plan, which identifies the SMPs for threatened species to be prepared, and that's to include a monitoring component to track the status. So it's going to apply to all potential and known squirrel glider habitat on the Central Coast, and that's on both public and private land. So this will include potential squirrel glider habitat where it has been previously recorded on the site or in surrounding sites as identified through bionet searches, or where the squirrel glider has been generated as a candidate species through the Biodiversity Development Assessment Report or the Biodiversity Certification Assessment Report. Because of the presence of squirrel gliders, where the habitat suitability has been identified as greater than 70%, you've got to assume that there's there. Importantly, we've undertaken some consultation. This has been including with external representatives from the UDIA and DEN. So both these groups were supportive of the document proceeding. There was some feedback and we've incorporated that feedback where appropriate. In some instances we haven't, and that's because some of the feedback was inconsistent with the legislation. They were wanting us, for example, to go further. Some instances it was about providing further clarification, which we've done. Internally, we've consulted with all relevant stakeholders, and we also engaged a species expert in this, Dr. David Sharp. So he reviewed all the relevant scientific literature, provided critical design requirements for the corridors, and he provided validation of the inputs that actually inform the habitat suitability model. So the methodology. So there's a very specific methodology that's been undertaken to develop this document. So that's looking at survey results as well as the database on Bionet. It's producing a very scientific species distribution model with 42 environmental values input into that. And then the advice from the species expert, who, as I said, has looked at the literature, provided the corridor design and validated the inputs. Critically, what the benefits of this document are. So in addition to supporting the squirrel glider, it's going to provide a consistent approach that can be applied across the local government area, and it's going to be providing greater certainty for proponents and council staff. Lake Macquarie Council, they've been rolling out species management plans, and that's broadly been accepted by the development industry. So we've got a good benchmark of how this has been done well and providing certainty for the development industry. Resulting is going to be a reduction in timeframes because everyone's got the certainty, they know what they've got to do as part of their application, and assessing officers, council staff understand what the requirements are clearly, and also a reduction in land environment court orders. So that's a summary of the document.
Okay, questions?
Have any ideas how many?
Councillor Neal, can you just speak up a little?
Certainly. Do you have any estimate of how many gliders there are on the central?
Yep. So I do have a number. 254 were recorded. Sorry, 254 Bionet database records have been identified. So in 2000, Central Coast was identified as one of the most significant areas for squirrel glider populations, but that number in recent surveys has significantly declined, and they're now at extinction likely.
Councillor Smith?
Thank you. I am happy to move the recommendation, but I did have just two questions. Is it squirrel gliders that were the target population in the Wadalba Wildlife Corridor, or am I thinking of something else?
Yes, they were.
Okay, and I know, I mean, just I think for information, I'm correct in saying that when that corridor was established, it was meant to protect the squirrel gliders, and I think years later the surveys showed that were none there. I don't know whether that's still the up-to-date information. But so it does need, some stronger management. Will this mean that council may have luck in accessing Save Our Species funding, or is that no longer available?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know, Scott.
Yeah, I can answer the question on the Wadalba Wildlife Corridor. So, yeah, squirrel gliders were one of the target species in the design of the Wadalba Wildlife Corridor, along with masked owls as well, and as well general, wildlife and fauna as well. But there's my understanding that, squirrel gliders, some of the monitoring, they haven't been found in the same abundance as they were in the original, as developments proceeded within that particular wildlife corridor.
And I'll just say it's a bit of a shame because I know the school got the squirrel glider as their logo because they thought it was going to be protected. But anyway, thank you for that. So, look, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
I'll come back to you because there might be some other questions just while we've got up the staff member here. Councillor Crowley?
Just wondering if the sugar gliders are they counted, or what's the situation?
So the sugar glider is different to a squirrel glider. So they are of lesser concern than squirrel glider.
I just wondered.
Yeah, but as part of our survey methods, when they went out and did the survey, they actually surveyed both to understand how they move around the area. So what their basically their foraging range was.
They already have a bit.
They do, and generally one, because of size, one will dominate the hollows over the others. So there's competition perhaps.
I've got a question on the map on page 101, which has got all these purple ribbons all over it. That's of the attachment.
Oh, sorry. attachment to the actual management plan.
I'm whelped by the look of it. So as I interpret the map, and I just see if I'm correct, purple ribbons are regional corridors. And there's a few smaller blue ones which are sub-regional corridors. But for instance, they seem to cover nearly all of Long Jetty, all of through to most of the entrance, all of the north entrance. Other areas that seem to be basically fully developed, and I can't understand how you can have a corridor in those areas.
So with the corridors, there's different significance of corridors. There's the local, the sub-regional, the regional. And as you know, like Warrabulong National Park sort of extends, for example, Plateau Bay, enough for the north entrance. So it's about giving opportunity for
there it is. I mean,
to move between those areas because they do have a large foraging range.
Yeah, I understand that, but I repeat, virtually all of Long Jetty and the entrance and north entrance before the park starts, before Wirrabong starts.
You're saying they shouldn't be allowed there?
I don't understand how you can have corridor there. Are we going to houses and put back trees?
No.
No, I mean, you know, so I find the map quite confusing in that sense. You know, it seems to go all over. I mean, there's clearly areas that are bushland, you know, and I did read that they can jump from, obviously, because they're gliders, they can go from tree to tree. But these ones are shown as regional corridors, which I think in the text says they're up to 400 metres wide. And clearly they're not practical because unless you're going to pull out the houses and put it back trees and bush, you can't get a corridor, anything like that width through those areas.
Which page are you looking at, Councillor Eaton?
I'm on 101 of the annexure.
Yeah, can you just explain?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the one. Yes.
So we engaged, so this was prepared by our species expert,
Yes.
so Dr. David Sharp. So he's analysed that and identified those corridors. So it's not about removing the houses or anything like that. It's about providing corridor movements and opportunities to connect those areas because it's about a minimum patch size, and then if there's not corridor that provides connection through, it reduces their ability to move through those.
They're probably like notional corridors too. Like in some cases, it won't practically be possible to get a connection, you know, separated by these large urban areas.
I guess that's what I'm saying, but then I'm worried about, you know, this map that shows a, you know, what appears to be either a recommendation or an actual corridor. So maybe there could be a note added somewhere that, you know, this is basically the ideal, but doesn't represent reality in terms of urban areas or existing settled urban areas.
I can come up with some link.
I don't need to put it into the motion.
I think it's just an attachment. I don't think it's actually just material.
Part of the study. I mean,
It's just been utilised to prepare the report. It's not actually what we're adopting.
I think it's a little strong, but I'm happy with yeah, some sort of notation that just makes it clear.
But given essentially given the expert who's developed this, I'm just kind of wondering that maybe he could.
Yeah, you can. So you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm looking at it here.
Yeah.
I suggest, councillor, we can add a note that explains the corridors and what the intent is.
It just explains a bit.
Yeah, that's all I'm after. Yeah.
I just don't think he would have developed something that was an unreal kind of situation rather than, you know, a real one. So, yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right, councillor Smith, you wanted to move the staff recommendation, I think?
Yes, please.
All right, there's a seconder for that?
Second.
Who do you want? Thank you,
Councillor Castles.
Councillor Castles.
She's doing this. She's doing this.
You want to speak to it, councillor Smith?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
More debate? Any discussion? All right, I'll put that all as in favour. Carried unanimously. We've done that. 1.9 was done by acceptance, so therefore on 110. Fire safety report at Budgie.
Chair, it's not concerns about the report. I can.
Yeah, we might get. Want to move? Yeah, ask the question first because it might change.
I've got a number of questions, and maybe I'm reading the report out of some context. I believe that council was advised on the 1st of April about these quite serious fire safety issues at a major venue in our region. I also understand that the legislation says it should be tabled at a council meeting at the next council meeting. I understand since the 1st of April, we've had 3 council meetings and an extraordinary meeting. So I was wondering if I could get some response from an officer or an appropriate directive here in the room. Why it's taken almost 4 months for it to be discussed with any councillors. I'll start there, but probably my major concern is when you look at some of the issues that they've found, have we done anything over the 4-month period to try to resolve the issue? Because we've had Easter, we're coming in school holidays. This venue is going to be very busy. I've got some concerns that if we endorse this report, there may be some liability to council if there is some type of incident at this venue.
Yeah, councillor, what we're doing is we're advising you that we're investigating it. So we've received it. We are investigating it at the moment and we'll be taking action. So when we've done that, we'll be providing a second report, which will tell you what actions we took. But if you'd be comfortable with that approach, I'll then provide councillors with a little bit more detail after the meeting about where we're up to at the moment with this matter.
I'm just concerned. It appears that we're in breach of the Act. Section 17, 2A, Part A of Schedule 5 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act requires a report received by council to be tabled at the next available council meeting. And we've now had 3 plus an extraordinary meeting.
I'll have to check that for you, council.
Next available.
Take that on notice. We'll take that on notice, but I'll provide information for councillors after.
Very loose meaning of available.
Yeah, I'll provide information for councillors about the timing and whether we're in breach of anything as well.
With the attached correspondence from Fire and Rescue in the 3rd paragraph, they've received correspondence, I'm not sure it's from council or from the venue, that states the sole emergency escape door in the TAB area has been locked for 2 months while the building works are current on the on-site area. Nevertheless, even if it's unlocked, when open, there's nowhere to escape to as it's blocked with steel mesh. It then goes on to say, someone advised that I addressed my concerns with staff weeks ago and now last week, which would have been 1st of April, that they said they would just remove the exit sign. So again, major venue. We've gone through Easter. We're now in the school holidays. Has that issue been resolved?
I'll have to take that. I can provide you with some information after tonight about where we're up to with the investigation.
This is an emergency as we've got school holidays coming up and that is a major venue on the Central Coast.
We can do that. I'll make sure that I'll get that back to you straight away and we'll make sure action's being taken.
Mr. Chair, I think we should note the committee's concern. Is
Okay.
Yeah,
you want to move something, Councillor Milland? So you want to add 3?
Well, I'm not happy with 2.
Well, you've got to get a further report. That's in accordance.
No, you're correct. That's right. Concerned with the timing of this.
With the delay, isn't it?
Yeah, the delay with
the delay in bringing this matter to council.
The issues raised by Fire and Rescue and what actions has occurred since the 1st of April, since receiving confirmation of the fire safety report.
I just note, councillor, that this resolution doesn't suggest that nothing's happened. I just need to find.
It doesn't say it's been.
No, but what this is doing is it's reporting it to council, telling you you'll receive a report about what happened. That's in progress at the moment. I'll be able to provide you with an update about what progress has been made. I'm I'm assuming there'll be lots of progress. I just don't have that available with me at the moment.
So maybe instead of take out the words, the issues raised by the fire and rescue, and just say delay of bringing this matter to council and the seriousness of the issues contained in the report.
In relation to section 17(2)(a) of Schedule 5 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Because the act's pretty clear that it needs to go to the next council meeting.
So it should be the delay, bring the matter to council and the seriousness of the,
Just to help start.
and the seriousness of the issues raised.
Section 2(a) was Schedule 5 of one. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, then. There's a seconder for that. We'll get the wording finished. Thanks.
I just
Councillor
had
Castles.
a question.
Yes, have a question. Yes, go ahead,
Yes.
Councillor Smith.
So relatively minor question in the context, but I just noticed the address on the report is different to the address of the letter. Now, I assume that's just a different facing street, but I would have thought that might matter, like in terms of the official address of a premise. But if it doesn't, then that's fine. I'll stand to be corrected. But I just thought I'd raise that, I guess, question.
Yeah, but that mightn't really well. Council address, I suspect.
Sorry?
I'm just saying, I suspect that's the letter the fire department used, and that might be the council's sort of address register.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a technical point, but I would have thought if this is a legal, something
No,
legal import, then there's an official address that both organisations should be using for clarity. But anyway, I don't want to get stuck on that. I just raised it.
Yeah, councillor, it has a different address. I don't know if that's the same address. I'll have to check that as well.
I think it was a side street. It's across the street.
I'm happy with that wording, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there, there was a second by Councillor Kelsey. You happy with that?
Did that, yeah.
Sorry.
Merlin
And
Castles.
Could we, look, can we just note in the resolution that staff have acted on this? Because I guess my experience is, and Councillor Eaton, you'll know better than I, because Gosford Council didn't even used to have these reports go to council. But there is a report that comes that notifies council, and then the staff are off doing the work. And then a further report comes back to say whether the matter's been resolved or not. So I just wouldn't want to convey the impression that nothing is being done in this regard, notwithstanding the concern about delays in terms of council meeting reporting.
Yeah, no, I'm happy that Councillor Smith, if we want a point board that the director will advise the committee of action that has been taken since the 1st of April after receiving the advice.
Yeah, so maybe we could just note staff
So the committee
actions
notes
That the director will advise.
Notes the
Progress on this matter. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
that's
agree,
fine.
councillors. It's you're being notified of something that there'll be a detailed report.
Yeah.
It's work in progress. There's something happening. We'll get you the details of that.
I have checked on the address system that the club is on the corner of Alexander Street and Turner. So,
but one of them's got to be
suspect
the
both
official.
I don't know which is the official one.
Yeah.
All right, are we all happy now?
Yeah.
All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. One 11 is the response to the notice of motion deferred lands. I don't know if there's anything to do with it that's been resolved, isn't it?
Yeah, councillors, it's been notified that it's been updated in the LEP, so that's all happened since you made this original resolution.
And I might just make the comment without moving any motion, how disappointed I am that our processes didn't protect the COS process through that deferred lands matter. That was extremely disappointing. But anyway, thank you.
All right, somebody move the recommendation. Move councillor Merlin. Second. I'll second it. Reaton. Any further discussion? Put it all those in favour. Raise your hand. Unanimous. Carried. Fogo, I think, was up to one. No, I put that right at the end of the pack. Right at the end of the night. Fogo. Mr. Bogolov. Bogov, sorry. We're not talking toilets tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. We don't have a presentation for this item. We've had two workshops. One was on the 18th of February, the other was on the 20th of May. This matter was considered here at an extraordinary meeting of the 10th of June. We also requested to send some information through to all councillors, which I did on the 16th of June, and that's on, the council hub, identifying all the other steps that had happened, essentially since 2020 liquid waste strategy, the directions paper, the feasibility study, and what you're considering tonight, which is the business case. And essentially what's happening tonight is the ability to go to that next step with FOGO to put out an expression of interest. And that's not binding the council with any particular thing, because there's still another report that still have to come back to council after an expression of interest was considered. Because it's a public private partnership, there's this process that we have to go through with the Office of Local Government as well. There's a fair bit of information that I know you've had now for a little while, and to decipher that, and with those other presentations and workshops. So essentially, it's over to you guys to.
Mr. Chair, can I ask just for two clarifications? The first one is we had this discussion previously with the committee. The tender process won't exclude non-complying tenders from being considered.
One.
And secondary is going through this process won't exclude council from exploring waste to energy options in the future.
That'd be a separate matter. So this matter is in relation to food organics and garden organics. There is a separate presentation on the 15th of July that was requested, where some other opportunities for the Buttery waste facility will be workshopped at that particular time.
The going through this tender process won't stop consideration.
No potential on the site, but it's the opportunities, because part of this does allow for some infrastructure access, an area that doesn't currently have access of the waste facility site by bridges and those sorts of things.
Other questions?
Yes, and unfortunately I left my piece of paper at home, which isn't helpful. I went through the one of the documents I think that you sent through to us, which was around the feasibility study that was done when originally, or along the way at least, I think when it came under administration in terms of progressing FOGO. And I noticed that there were, apart from the boot model, which obviously is the one that's recommended here. There were two other models listed next to the boot model, which actually originally in the report were going through with ticks next to them, along with the boot one. And then those two got sort of removed with crosses next to them. There was a quite a big table. I know I'm probably sounding a bit vague because I left my piece of paper at home which had all that detail on it, but is there a short way that you can tell us, Director, exact sort of why those other two got knocked out of the ring, so to speak, and that the boot one came the recommended one?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Castles, that table from memory, there wasn't like a scoring and assessment to that particular table. I'd have to defer to Mr. North. He might be able to shed a little bit more light if they can get to that particular table. I know there's quite a few.
I think it is in the document here, but it's a long way down. If you can't tell me now, that's fine, but it would be good to just we could get a bit of insight into why they were knocked out.
They said, from memory, there were other options of going out to tender and doing a conventional way. That there are different risks with different models, and that's why they were discounted. So I don't know if there's any other further advice that otherwise it would take.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We don't know the exact table you've referenced. Holistically, we went through a multi-criteria assessment, which looked at, initially there was around 7 different types of options that we had. And we went through a multi-criteria assessment, which scored each of those options against a set criteria as whether that was a positive or a negative score. And at the end of that, it came out with the highest ranked option. That highest ranked option was then reassessed under the feasibility study to make sure that that was the option that we needed to carry through to the business case. But also during the feasibility study, it identified that we needed to do several other items of work to reinforce whether that was the correct option to take forward to the business case as well. And the business case is built on previous platforms or foundations, and each way along the journey we've assessed each other option and either kept it in to the point where it was no longer in and we've taken it out.
This is essentially the big advantage of a boot is that the risk is carried by the private proponent rather than that's the fundamental reason it's being selected. Sorry, can you say that? That the risk is being carried by the private proponent rather than council, and we don't have to put much capital investment into it. Otherwise, if we built it all and then just paid someone else to run it, we would be carrying the risk and putting in the capital. Under this model, we don't, or not as much anyway. Much with you. Yeah.
Is that a comment or a question?
Comment.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all right. Just clearing. It was a good comment.
Thank you.
Clarifying it. Any more? All right. We need a motion.
I move the recommendation.
Can I just have one more question? Are there any other boot projects for FOGOs that are already existing in
Not in New South Wales.
Australia?
Yes, in Australia there are. So there's a current one that's being developed in Western Australia, Fremantle, and there's also another one in Victoria that's in its final stages. And there was a plant that was opened late last year in Tasmania that was done under a build owner transfer contract.
And I ask the next step is, have they been successful so far?
FOGO, as through you, Mr. Chair, FOGO is through IVC is a proven technology.
I meant the actual boot model. Of
the contract management is dependent on the parties involved. So there are very good successful stories associated with FOGO under this model, but at the same instant, there are mistakes that have been made, and we don't intend to make those mistakes because we
well said, we agree.
Maybe to move the motion.
Is there a seconder? Second by councillor Stanton. I've got a couple of minor changes I'd like to suggest. So on 6.3, where it says agrees, etc., remains a viable project and will facilitate, I'd like to say is a project that will. I don't like using viable with a project that's got a negative cost benefit analysis. But I understand that regulatory requirements are that something's got to be done. Take a viable is a project that will.
Not happy with that change.
Councillor Stanton, you happy with that? And the other one, which I had discussed with the director earlier, is that we are prepared to look at other sites. So whether that needs to go in maybe at the beginning.
I could add through you,
Mhm.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
When we discussed it here last time, I've written down what we discussed.
Yes, good. Yes.
The,
If you can give that. Yeah.
It was a standalone item that said, when seeking the EII for FOGO project, council is interested in alternate options for processing, site selection, and other commercial FOGO opportunities. Just tidied that up a little bit.
That's happy with that? Stanton?
Please.
Yeah. You can give that.
Can you?
Yes, we'll get it. Can you take that over?
That be the new number 1?
No, what number was it?
It was the last one in that. It's changed the
Thank you, Mr.
numbering. So there's no H in this ordering this time. It's a different meeting.
So it'll just be right at the end, will it?
Yeah, just forget H. It's whatever the last number is.
Forget that.
Yeah. If you need me to read that out again.
There's a comma after processing.
Other any other FOGO, commercial FOGO opportunities. Commercial, just add in FOGO.
And at the risk of putting words in your mouth, you were happy with that?
Sorry, comma after processing.
That reinforces what was.
Rather than processing site, different meaning.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
All right.
What does that?
So can you understand it? Everyone, sorry.
No, I'm
sorry.
being vague, I think, but so what does that actually mean practically on the ground?
I'll let the director act, but for instance, in my view, just adds a little bit of flexibility.
Right.
It may not be on a every site, it may be another site.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that was what it meant, but yeah.
What site are you thinking?
I have no site that I am thinking.
Well,
I just
you
don't-
must have something in mind, councillor Eaton, that would be big enough.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to believe it.
Yes, I'm thinking maybe it'll be in Lake Macquarie.
I think she's calling you out.
Yeah.
I don't have a site in mind. We want to get the best result we can. If that happens to
Is
be
there
on a
another
site.
golf course somewhere or something? Or?
Yeah. That's right. Exactly.
Where's councillor McKenna when you need him?
That was funny, Doug. He's laughing. He's laughing on the inside.
Okay.
In answering.
Yes, please.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, no objections to that. That reinforces what we're looking at.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favour? It's councillor Newland, councillor Castles, you in favour or not?
Are we voting on the whole thing?
Yes.
So it's a council report.
Yeah.
The wording changes from
Yeah.
the director.
Sure, I'm happy about it. 8.
That's fine. Obviously. Vote for it or don't vote for it.
I won't.
All right, I'll call. Those in favour again, please raise your hand. Councillor Miller, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Standard, against. Councillor Castles, Councillor Smith,
Councillor Walsh. Who was again?
Councillor Walsh, since she hasn't carried a vote.
It really essentially leaves options open for non-conforming.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was raised.
Do you have a proposal that would?
No.
I haven't got a golf course either.
Sure.
I'm sure I haven't played golf.
Councillor Walsh, how do you want to be recorded?
Against.
Okay, against.
Dilemma.
All right, I'll declare it carried on my casting vote.
I don't think you do.
You do that, yeah.
I think it's in the terms of
Yeah, it
reference,
is.
actually. Much as I hate to agree with councillor Eaton over there, but.
Councillor, it's just fantastic.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. Congratulations, or not, as the case may be.
Time like.
Yeah, no, I knew I did. Okay, we're on to,
You did.
I don't think I'm the only one that chooses, is he?
I'm not sure.
All right, 113, planning protocol statistics. So if there's any questions from the staff?
Previously before the director. Could we get a 12-month running total on table 1 and 2, please? Because from memory, I think that's a really good improvement.
No, hang on, you're on the 1-1. You're on 114. We're on 114.
I apologize. You're right. There we go.
So the committee, there's got the staff recommendation there. I have added an amendment, which was the same one I unsuccessfully moved last time. So if we can bring that up.
So I just had a question, councillor Eaton, if I may.
Yeah, I'll wait for you to get the motion and then I'll come to you, councillor Smith. That's the one I gave you before. All right, we'll come to your questions, councillor Smith.
Sorry, it was just the reclassification of council-owned land to from community to operation. I just wanted to find out what that was, if I could, from the staff, please.
Can I ask the acting planning manager?
Yes, so that's in the process of being finalised. We anticipate that it will be notified within the next 2 months.
So what is it? Where is it? What is it?
It's in the final plan making stages.
No, I think she wants to know what is the land, like what piece of land, or is it a number of pieces of
It's
land?
a number of parcels of land. There are, I think, 8 different parcels of land that form that particular planning proposal.
One's probably bowling club, isn't it? Gosford Bowling Club?
That's one of the sites, yes. So I can take that on and provide you with a list of all of the sites that particular planning proposal applies to, if that's assistance.
So is it council land or is it other land?
It's council land. There's a proposal to reclassify a number of council sites as part of that bulk land reclassification proposal.
From community to operational.
That's correct.
So, okay, so could I get some information on that? I'm not sure why we're being so vague on it. You're not sure, or?
I'm happy to take that on notice and provide you with some additional information.
All right, okay, thank you.
All right, so there's the motions back up now with the changes to it, which is, I know was debated last time, but of course, those minutes weren't adopted by the council, so it's open to move it again. If I have a seconder.
Sorry, what do you mean the minutes weren't adopted, councillor Eaton?
We didn't get to these minutes at the last council meeting. They were deferred.
All right, yeah.
No, sorry, that was seconded by councillor Merlin, not by councillor Tim. I suppose just to recap, this comes out of the Economic Development Committee, not of this week, but of the previous month, that pointed out the shortage of that sort of development, and this is just an attempt to suggest that we should take notice of that report. Councillor Smith?
So sorry, councillor Eaton, just speaking against this, wasn't that report found by the Economic Development Committee not to be up to standard? Am I talking about the right report?
You're talking, no, that wasn't that. The report was adopted by the committee.
Okay, all right. So again, I would argue that this has no strategic framework around your motion to this committee. There's no substantial strategy or policy position that would support this recommendation. So it is concerning that you're pulling these things out of thin air without any real justification.
I think I answered that in the start. It comes out of that report to the Economic Development Committee, so there is a strategic justification for it. Anyhow, we've had the debate before. Is there any other speakers?
The reason I'm happy to second, I think I spoke about this at the last meeting. Councillor Smith, you're correct. I'm the one that actually pulled apart this report, and I'm still waiting on a response from the director. My concerns about the report, it's not related to this recommendation. It was about that report not addressing the key issues of what was really restricting investment in this area. I believe the recommendation is still guided by council's current policies and strategies. We're not saying that to bypass the current DA and planning processes. The intent of myself seconding that recommendation is just to encourage more investment on the Central Coast around high quality tourist accommodation and associated facilities.
Thank you, councillor Milne. If I may speak, councillor Eaton,
Yes,
I will just again restate my concerns about probity around this. You questioned that report, the validity of that report. I'd be interested to know any conflicts of interest, but I don't think we'll get those. But this is a real concern in terms of probity of putting this motion forward without justification or a position or policy coming to us from staff.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Put it, those, because it's probably going to be some disagreements. I'll put it. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Merlin, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Eaton. Against? Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Welsh. I declare the motion carried on my vote. Okay, next one is 114, DA statistics. Councillor Merlin.
Thank you, Chair. I've made the comment previously, actually, and I think it's just flipped off the agenda with the change of director, but the reporting seems to be very encouraging in relation to table 1 and figure 1 and figure 2, development application data and development application assessment timeframes. However, could we have a 12-month running total just so we can track that progress, please? Yes, we can.
Are you moving that, Councillor Merlin? Just as you don't need that in the motion, do you?
No.
All right.
I'll have to do that.
Sure. Yeah, seconder for that. Councillor Stanton, any discussion?
I'd just like to congratulate staff. I know they've been under a lot of pressure to address the issue around DA assessment times, and it's really pleasing to see some movement. We spoke to the director informally before the meeting tonight, and thanked him and his team for the effort and encouraged him and his team to continue the good work. So thank you.
All right. Any discussion? Any further discussion? I'll put it. All those in favour? Sorry, Councillor Smith, I can't. Oh, right. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Now we go back to 1.15, 6, which is the Mangrove Mountain Committee.
So if we can get the track changes one.
And we've got a minute.
On screen.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we'll do, councillor, we'll pop the track changes version up and maybe, Jan, if you could just maybe go up and take them. This may take a little while, councillors, so.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I don't think so. I don't think. I think it's just like a diary entry. I'll check. I don't. Anyone think we've got a particular time we have to finish by? I don't believe we do.
No, there is no standard.
No.
But with code of meeting practice.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just waiting for the
Oh, okay.
come up on the screen.
Go through a few links,
there a-
taking a bit of time to load.
Yeah, so there's no document on the screen yet, is there?
No.
Just
you. You're there.
It's a great show.
If I can just make a comment, I have done these track changes off the 2 versions tonight. So you may see some quite significant changes, but that's more that I've copied and pasted across because of time constraints. A lot of the changes relate to refining wording. There was double ups of wording throughout the document and inconsistency. So we've refined that in a more even way. This has been through Council Unit Manager of Governance and Legal, just for checking those terms of references to ensure that they're consistent with all of the other terms of reference. So there were, you can see those changes.
Which do you want to go to?
Have you got the version that shows the track change?
The one she sent through, yeah.
It should be showing up in red.
I think that's the.
Depends on how you
Yeah,
send
look,
it.
the one that got emailed to me didn't show track changes.
No,
didn't
it wouldn't have shown. I've just done them tonight for you,
Yeah.
as I didn't have a version of track changes saved.
I think it might be the wrong document.
So I've got that Scott track. They've just
They've just sent it out, have they?
Yeah, from the track.
The track changes version.
But what?
Yep, if you pop that on the screen.
And there also has been some shuffling of clauses from further down in the terms of reference up into a more appropriate section of the terms of reference, where they align to be consistent with all of the other subcommittees.
There we go. Now can you make it a bit bigger? Otherwise I can come closer. That's, yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So is the blue the one that's the one we should be looking at, the blue writing?
So the blue writing is the additions.
Okay.
You will see as we move further down, there's strike throughs of the ones that have been amended. So this, I'll read off.
You can see that, Councillor Smith?
I can, thank you.
So the subcommittee will operate for an initial period of 2 years from the first meeting unless otherwise resolved by council to terminate earlier. There's been an addition to 1.2 and it will provide relevant advice for the consideration of council by the Environment and Committee of Council, just to clarify where this subcommittee sits. If we can scroll down. The subcommittee is established under the Environment Planning Committee of Council and report to the Parent Standing Committee for consideration of outcomes. This outlines the membership of the subcommittee, including the Mayor, councillors as nominated by council and independent community representatives of up to 5 people as nominated by the resolution of council. And those 5 members will come to the MP committee for selection. Council, the committee shall aim to, yeah.
I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it.
The subcommittee shall aim to make decisions by consensus when possible. However, if voting on a motion to put to a meeting of the subcommittee is equal, the chairperson of the meeting shall have a casting vote as well as an original vote. So these, I guess 3.1, 3.2, sorry, the numbering may be out just due to the rush that I did this in just for you. That will be fixed, but these ones have been moved up from other sections within the terms of reference, and also a couple of others and additional ones that will ensure that that's consistent. Scope remains the same. It includes a representative of government agencies, including Local Land Services, Department of Planning, Housing Infrastructure, Crown Lands Division, Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, National Parks and Wildlife, and New South Wales Environment Protection Authority. University of Newcastle. These other conditions have been moved within the document, so you would have noticed them previously and some further down. We've added an additional section on the delegation for the subcommittee, and also clarifying the chairperson of the subcommittee.
Sorry, what's the delegation?
So the subcommittee may make recommendations to council on all relevant business presented before it. Such recommendations will be presented to the Environment Planning Committee of Council for consideration in a report prepared by council officers. The role of the chairperson is described as in the Code of Meeting Practice. So that's just been reworded and clarified in this section. And there's another clause in there in relation to any procedural matter. The ruling of the chairperson is final. And in the absence of a chairperson, the committee will elect a chairperson as the first item of business. CEO will assign a council officer to perform the role of the coordinator. It's just been reworded there. 6.2 is the responsibilities, which was already in there. We've also included a section on there having a secretary to perform the role of secretariat of the subcommittee. And then clarifications on the meetings. So dates are set annually to assist with forward planning. Meetings will be held on a Thursday commencing at 3 p.m, September, November, March and May at Council Administration Building in Wyong, unless otherwise notified. Meetings to conclude by 5 p.m, may take longer. Meetings may be held in person, remotely or hybrid as agreed by the members. And if consensus cannot be met regarding the format of the meeting, the chairperson and coordinator will decide how the members will meet in person, remotely or hybrid. So that's just been clarified there. I think 6.1 is part of 8.2 now. And records of the meeting will be made publicly available.
One issue that I've seen some issue with is specifying that it has to take place at the council chambers. I would have thought there'd be an occasion where we might want to take the meeting up to Mangrove Mountain or its surrounds. I'm not a member of this committee and can't move as such, but I'd suggest that the location of the meeting be left to be determined for each meeting.
Yeah, there's another clause that says
There's one
they can change the
Scroll off.
saying that it'd be at the council chambers. Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, just from a
unless otherwise notified, so that's okay
staff
then.
perspective though, like we have protocols to record this and have the community online, how would the staff have a YouTube live stream? And
If what you're talking about is we potentially do site visits, we may do that in a slightly different format, but I don't see that as a problem we could organise.
But it also does say unless otherwise notified. So I think that gives flexibility.
just scrolling down if we're happy with that. Talking about meeting attendance, this clarifies that meeting attendance, which was similar to what was discussed in the other terms of reference. Also, an additional clause in there, subcommittee members other than the mayor may cease to be a member of the subcommittee if absent for more than 3 consecutive meetings without having given reason acceptable to the committee. Or if the member has been absent for at least half of the meetings of the subcommittee held during the immediately preceding year without having given the subcommittee reasons for the absence. And also subcommittee members may resign from their position at any time by notifying the chairperson in writing. So that would possibly be more relevant to the community members that we're having on the committee. Also talking about code of meeting practice in 9.6 there. I think that was a repeat there of the consecutive meetings, so that's been deleted. And also code of conduct training must be completed by all members prior to attending the meeting. This is talking about external members that haven't already and identifying breaches and maintaining security and confidential information in relation to the subcommittee. Apologies, there's a B missing there, but business paper and minutes, this will be corrected before it's finalised, but will be prepared in a format aligned to council's business paper and as required in the code of meeting practice. It also sets out those business paper requirements, which are similar to all of the subcommittee meetings that are in place. Also the retention of minutes in electronic document management system of council and what is required as part of those minutes. Just clarifying the term of the subcommittee. It will operate for an initial period of 2 years from the date of the first meeting unless otherwise resolved by council to terminate earlier.
Or be extended. Can we add or be extended, please?
That's the next one, isn't it? That there, 138.
Oh, okay. Yes, you are correct. You are correct. Yeah.
Extended term. And then 10.2 is being moved into 11.3 there. Just editing those. I think, is there anything further down? I did.
Well, the rest is the same. That's all the changes, is that right? Oh.
Just the criteria for community representation. So this is for the non-councillor members.
It says 2 years for them, which no longer aligns with the length of the committee now. We've extended the length of the committee.
This one was at 2 years.
But it should say for the term of the committee.
For the term of the committee.
Yeah.
So it sets out the criteria for what we will be looking for in the EOI. Council employees are ineligible. Commitment to notifying the subcommittee coordinator of any potential or perceived conflicts. Demonstrate at least one of the following if you want to scroll down that. Active involvement with community groups or organisations in the LGA, relevant matters to the subcommittee for consideration and willing to educate and inform their community networks on matters considered, and involvement with an established or of environment or user group, active involvement with an established or relevant community business group or user group, active involvement with an established relevant mangrove mountain user group,
And then we've included for this a resident or ratepayer residing in the upper Arimba Creek catchment, as described by the figure 1.
Very specific.
I think this was to draw community members from within that location that would represent that community.
Okay, so they're the changes. Any further questions?
I have
Yep.
some requested changes, so some of those are in there. I will note that the resolution from April that was not rescinded includes the council CEO and council's legal counsel as members, so if they could be inserted as part of the membership. I would also ask that the whole point of this committee was in response to a serious pollution issue in our drinking water catchment. So I would request that this committee meet bi-monthly, every second month, not quarterly. If I could get that change in there.
Councillor, just an amendment to that. It would have to be staff as appointed by the CEO, direct staff. So staff
Well,
is
the
appointed by CEO.
resolution specifically said council CEO and council's legal counsel. So I'm happy in theory with what you're saying, but it was a resolution adopted by the council. So presumably that resolution stands if it hasn't been rescinded.
Our advice at the moment to councillors would be it would have to be staff as approved by CEO. So it's legal.
The council
Yeah.
if Councillor Smith is right, and I'm not saying whether she is or isn't, but I suspect she probably is. If the council resolution says the CEO, then that would be direction to the CEO.
We can direct the CEO, we just can't direct the staff.
Yes. If I could just ask the Director of Governance to.
So we could say this.
Well, obviously, we've got to find
Yeah,
resolutions in.
so by council resolution, council can only direct the CEO. So if there is a resolution that says CEO and legal counsel, it's an unlawful resolution. And the terms of reference can only say council staff is directed by the CEO for that same reason. That doesn't mean that the CEO can't direct legal services to send a representative. Knowing your intention, I would suggest that's highly likely that would happen. But just to keep the resolutions and the terms of reference consistent.
Do we have the resolution number?
619/25.
I think what she's saying is that if that's not a lawful resolution, for us to do it now, we just be creating a second.
So, but we can just say the CEO plus staff as selected or as appointed by the.
As approved by the CEO. Yeah, I mean, we're not saying the legal.
They can just not turn up. The resolution is valid. It was accepted as valid. They can just not turn up. Honestly, this is just outrageous.
We find the resolution.
Well, why was that not the night this was being voted on? Why was this not?
Because we're all very tired and overwrought.
Possibly. Probably, yes. 619, is that right?
619/25.
We don't need to rescind it. It's
We can't.
as a resolution that doesn't meet the criteria of a lawful resolution. We just ignore it.
Well, the CEO has responsibility on.
No, only the side of it that's contrary.
Yeah, the bit that's inconsistent. But there is a way around it, and it's not that anyone's in disagreement with the intention of the resolution. It's about how we document it.
Oh my goodness.
I suppose though the issue around that is, and I'm taking board what everybody's saying here, but this was a resolution of council. If you're now saying that it was not a legal resolution, my question is, why was that issue not brought up at the subsequent meeting by somebody, and perhaps even by from the governance side of things, whatever? Why was it not brought up after the event? That's the bit I don't quite understand.
I don't think it's the whole
That's why we're
resolution.
cleaning it up now.
It's just one aspect of it.
No.
And it's just that one word.
Well, I would just add to Councillor Castles, it was submitted as a notice of motion. The CEO has responsibility to ensure that items on the business paper are lawful. So if he did not pick that up and is now claiming it's unlawful, that's
Councillor
just
Smith.
ridiculous.
One bit.
Oh, but I guess we're here
hang
right
on.
now to do
Sorry.
this particular
Yeah.
terms of reference. So let's
Can
decide how we're going to proceed.
Can I try this as a way forward? Councillor Smith, what about if we came back to this and amended the terms of reference if necessary at the next committee meeting?
No, Councillor Eaton, this committee was proposed because we had identified significant issues with PFAS in our drinking water catchment.
Yeah. Sorry,
It
I'm
has
not
now
saying,
been 3 months
I'm not
and
saying,
we can't even get the terms of
I
reference
think we should finalise
sorted.
this.
no,
Also, it's this.
no, all I'm saying is pick it up as recommended and then fix it at the next meeting. So that would allow everything to go forward. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I just think the only thing, the CEO being appointed is not unlawful, and that was a resolution, so we need to include that. The only issue is.
It's coming up now anyhow.
It's only legal counsel is the only.
Okay, we've got it by the sound of it.
Did you have did you have anything to add?
And look,
Only
we
that the
even
code of
voted on a
conduct
committee chair.
specifically has a clause highlighting that council cannot direct staff generally,
I think
but
that's-
also specifically legal advisors. It's a specific clause in the code of conduct. And what I wouldn't like us to do is to perpetuate a clause that would be inconsistent with the code of conduct. We're fighting it up now. I would recommend is.
And they're sensitive because of other issues about that.
I'm not sensitive about it.
Okay, well, there it is. So it's,
Where is this? Oh, here we are.
so to clarify or to make it absolutely crystal clear, the council CEO can be included, but
Everybody was for except for Eden.
there you go. But legal counsel can't be. It'd have to be other staff as appointed or directed or whatever it is by the CEO. Is that the way it's got to work? Councillor Smith?
Councillor Eaton, the motion is as it was resolved. The legal counsel can choose not to turn up. There's no issue there. It's a lawful resolution of council.
Got advice
We'll
that it isn't.
There's an amendment, we'll vote.
If you'd like me to read the clause in the code of conduct, clause
No, I don't need
7.2D, you cannot contact or issue instructions to any of council's contractors, including council's legal advisors, unless by the mayor or administrator exercising their functions under section 222 of the Local Government Act.
Okay, can we come back to what?
Could I contact legal counsel and ask them to attend a meeting on a matter?
Because you don't have an authority to contact staff.
Well,
That's the whole
I
thing.
can contact prior to each meeting and ask legal counsel to attend a meeting.
What was that, sorry?
There you go.
No, don't worry about it, Director.
That
All
would
right.
be a breach of.
No, all right, look, well, we'll try and get things back on track, at least in terms of the meeting procedure. So you're moving that, councillor Smith?
I think we've all had correspondence about this exact issue.
It's in the code of conduct. It's a big change in the Local Government Act between previously and now.
Is there a seconder for that? There's no seconder?
Mm.
Is that a seconder?
Hang on.
Okay, that's all right, I'll give you. In any
It's only
event,
2 years from the first meeting, I think. 11.1.
yes, 11.1 should be 2 years. So, sorry, councillor Walsh, have you
I'll second.
seconded or it's seconded by councillor Walsh? And I'll put a amendment, which is simply the staff recommendation.
It's a
Is there a-
contradiction. You can't do that. You'll have to wait. You'll have to foreshadow it, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, all right, you're probably right. I'll accept that. A foreshadowed motion is the staff recommendation if the motion.
Clarification before we vote.
Sure.
Just on the wording that's up on the screen. It says meet by monthly, need to be approved by CEO, resolution X. What is the?
That's just the staff making notes to tidy up later.
Okay, I just need to know the wording and I am Are you talking about the little asterisks? What are we referring to when you put the resolution there? Is that the part that we're discussing? Or
That,
okay, so is that to say that like in accordance with this, we're going to have this members? Is that
Well, that's.
That was the one with the CEO and the legal counsel.
that's in that resolution?
Yes.
So if we vote for this, we're voting to have that resolution into this, which is the CEO and the.
Yes.
If that's what
Which-
Smith
which-
would like her wording to be.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, any,
Look, I don't really mind whether the CEO and legal counsel attend. It's a resolution of council that staff were meant to implement probably 2 months ago. So, yeah, so.
okay, any further discussion? Councillor Smith, you want to write a reply?
Secondary.
Yeah, sorry,
No.
Councillor, oh, sorry, I did say that, but yes, that's, thanks. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't ask. Councillor Walsh, did you want to speak to it?
No, it's all good.
Councillor Smith, any right of reply?
No.
All right, I'll put the motion moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Walsh. All those in favour? Councillor Castles, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Smith against. Councillor Merlin, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton. The motion is lost. I'll now put the foreshadowed. Is there a seconder for the foreshadowed, which is simply the staff recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Merlin. All right, all those in favour of that, raise your hand. Councillor Merlin, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton against.
This is the original motion, is it?
Do you really want to vote against? It's up to you guys. I mean,
Can I see it again, please?
it's just the staff recommendation.
Like
Yes.
to have this committee.
Oh, my opposition is purely for the legal standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to any of the amendments of this motion.
Do you want me to put it to the vote again?
Put it to the vote.
Those in favour?
Okay.
Unanimous. Carried. Thank you. And I think that finishes the business of the committee, doesn't it? Nice. Thank you for your attendance.
I know you are.
I wish everyone a safe trip home and hopefully you've got power.
Yes, indeed. Let's all hope it's not
The
too
powers.
terrible out there.
The roads.
Good night. Good night. Fun evening.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. You need to know what is then you'll take 3. I've had it in this kitchen. Unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks for the.
I'm saying.
Request about.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yourself.
Did you?
Well, you'll see, you can see it on.
You say.
Oh, whatever it is. Oh, that's the other thing, isn't it?
Like property and.
I think it is.
So I've attached the. We've gone out, we've ran.
Lord. Oh, my legs have gone.
If I can get that. And she's saying, it's a board, it's the director of CEO. It's gonna be going up, so I don't know what the answer is, I don't know.
Right, well, I'll look out for it and we'll get that.
Her